Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be starting this video out with leaks concerning AMD's budget-focused N33 GPU's performance, and then moving on to the PlayStation 5 Pro / PS6, tackling a rumour that the PS5 Pro has either been cancelled or that Sony have simply decided internally to move straight on to the next generation. And we're going to get right into all of this after this message from the video's sponsor. If you're running a copy of Windows 10 which isn't activated, of course, not only do you have to worry about the missing customization options, but there's also that annoying Windows desktop watermark reminding you to activate. Today's video is sponsored by WhoKeys.com, and they have an excellent price on Windows 10 Professional as well as home keys. Yeah, and they also of course sell games. I've bought a few Windows 10 keys with my own personal account to test everything was legit and worked in preparation for this sponsored video. You can pick up one of their keys for 25% off using the coupon code RGT in the checkout. There's links to their website in the video description. Also, if you're building a few systems, there's bundles available too. Again, you can check out WhoKeys.com and use the coupon code RGT for 25% off the listed Windows 10 key prices. As a very quick asterisk before I get into the video, I just want you guys to know that the desk setup is basically done now at my place, but if you can hear some construction noises, unfortunately it's the neighbours. I've waited where the noise seems to have died down, but it is what it is. Anyway, let's get straight into this. So RDNA 3 is now out on store shelves with higher end products like the 7900 XTX. And we're of course waiting for AMD to fill out the mid to lower range product tiers, and these will be catered for by N32 and N33. Nvidia already started to fill out their product tiers, and we've already discussed the RTX 4070 and RTX 4060 Ti, and they are looking to be reasonable, but ultimately of course it will depend upon the performance. N33 though has had numerous leaks associated with its performance. Several times quite early on with the rumours, I'd mentioned that I'd been hearing that the performance was up to N21, the lower end SKUs, albeit something like the 6800. This would depend on things like the resolution and of course ray tracing. Performance targets though were looking increasingly unlikely to hit this after we learned that N31, well, just wasn't as fast as we'd hoped. Now, I personally think that AMD did miss the performance targets they'd initially set out for, both in terms of clock frequency and some architectural stuff, but honestly, whether this is true or not, it doesn't really matter at this point. I believe that this tweet from All the Watts is actually probably fairly right in terms of the performance targets that we're seeing here. For what it's worth, I've actually heard these myself a couple of times over the past several days, but I haven't been able to verify the numbers, so I didn't want to put them out there. But as I said, All the Watts has actually mentioned it publicly on Twitter, and since I've had a couple of people ask me my opinions over this, well, yeah. Now, ultimately, the performance doesn't actually matter so much when we're taking the price into account as well. For example, let's hypothetically say that I release a graphics card and it's as fast as, let's say, the 6800 XT, and then I charge like, you know, $900 for it. That's not great, but if I do the same thing and then I release the card at $300, obviously this is just exaggerating to the nth degree here, then you're going to be pretty happy. So it's really going to come down to the pricing situation. Obviously prices at this stage are too early to really know. For what it's worth, of course, we recently leaked the photos of the RTX 4070 on the channel, and I was told that the MSRP for that card is currently targeting like $599 US, and obviously, if that is true, and well, I was told 599 to 649, but let's just take 599. If that's true, you can probably do some basic math to figure out what, say, the 4060 Ti, 4060 is going to be. I don't think AMD are going to be selling these super cheap. I would absolutely love a GPU which comes in at like, let's say 199. I think that would be absolutely amazing, because ultimately, you know, the die size is really small for this card, but again, it's going to very much depend on the price. And the good news is that I think the drivers will definitely improve. I think N32 is probably going to be about the best of the products for RDNA 3. The rumor is that it fixes some of the architectural bugs or not. I guess we'll know when the cards launch. But anyway, let's shift focus from AMD to the PlayStation, which is kind of ironic since it still, of course, uses AMD. So let's go back in time, shall we? And we'll get in our DeLorean. Back in November of last year, so that's 2022 if you're watching this in the far-flung future. If you're watching this in 2028 though, let me know if this turns out to be true or not in the comments down below, because the PS6 is allegedly launching then. But this has led to some interesting speculation. Now, personally, I've heard from a couple of very good sources that the PlayStation 5 Pro is at the very least being considered. But someone else, and this is an insider by the name of Tom Henderson, he's had pretty good luck. He said that he doesn't think that the PS5 Pro is actually likely at this point. Instead, Sony are more likely to go to the PlayStation 6. Now, he basically has said that there is a new model of the PS5 which is going to release this year. It's basically going to have the detachable disc drive, and this is, to my understanding, also true. I recently put out a video that this basically corroborated his information. I didn't really have any new stuff, only that I'd heard that. I'd also heard that the PlayStation 5 Slim or cost-reduced model, whatever it ends up being called, honestly, it has some changes. One of those is that there is no liquid metal on the APU, which I can kind of see if they're like cost reducing and producing it on a smaller manufacturing process. I can see that being the case. But I have heard that the PlayStation 5 Pro does exist, but it's not releasing this year. It's going to be next year. However, projects get cancelled all of the time, and one reason to think that the PlayStation 5 Pro could be cancelled, I've been hearing that it was really expensive. Like, it was developed for a premium price. I'm actually working on kind of a video on this, but I'm just going to let this bit slip early. I heard it was releasing for a really expensive price, like much more expensive than, let's say, the PS4 Pro. I don't like to give prices, really, because ultimately they're kind of meaningless, because they can change literally last minute depending on, for example, whether Sony wanted to lose money on per console. But I had heard something like $600 may be the price point. Who knows though? I mean, I've only heard that from one person, but I have heard very expensive. So with what's going on at the moment, and you know, just the business world with people being fired, obviously Microsoft laid off people, Amazon have, and so on and so on. It's certainly not just limited to tech companies. Perhaps that's one of the reasons that they are deciding perhaps not to release this product. However, the fact that the PlayStation 6 is not coming, most likely, and this is official, essentially from Sony, with this whole squabble between Microsoft and Sony, you know, over the whole Activision Blizzard purchase. I know, will they go that long without releasing another system? It's kind of hard to know, to be honest. It's a very interesting thing. I have heard Microsoft are also considering a mid-generation refresh as well. To be honest, I think that just because stuff is being tested internally, it honestly does not mean that it's going to be launched. And there are tons of examples that this has happened in the past, like either specifications have changed or stuff has just simply not launched. Like Microsoft, of course, just announced publicly that it was working on a streaming Xbox Series console. Basically, it didn't, you know, play games locally. It was essentially just for cloud gaming, but they couldn't get the cost down. But they'd done all of research and development internally. They just couldn't get the cost down enough to make it a viable market option. Like, why would you do that when, especially since the Series S is so cheap at the moment? It just doesn't make sense. Nintendo, we almost certainly know they've had several revisions of the Nintendo Switch 4K or Switch Pro or whatever the hell you want to call it, and again they have essentially scrapped it multiple times. In fact, I've heard that the latest iteration has considerably upgraded hardware. I'm trying to verify a little bit on that, but apparently has much more powerful CPU, better GPU, and so on and so on. But ultimately, this stuff is pretty normal. Sony, Nvidia, AMD, every company just has these like projects that they test. And even if a console is launched, sometimes there are multiple variants of that console. Perhaps they couldn't get the bill of materials cost low enough, for example, so they have to go with slower RAM or whatever. So I wouldn't be surprised, honestly, if the PS5 Pro is at least considered. Whether it gets released or not, I'm not sure. If you'd asked me 6 months ago, I would have said it was a lot more likely, but what's going on now with just the world in general, I honestly don't know. Let me know down below, though. That was a very clumsy sentence. But let me know, would you guys, hypothetically, let's say that the console was call it $650 US. Let's say slightly more expensive than what I've heard. Let's say 650 bucks. Would you guys pay that for a premium PlayStation 5 Pro, which released next year, and hypothetically it would have better visuals, so it would be much more able to hit higher resolutions, it would be able to hit, like, you know, better ray tracing quality, it would be a premium VR system, it would be significantly more powerful than the base console. Would you guys pay it, or would you guys not pay it? It's a very interesting question. Let me know down below. Anyway, as a quick cleanup, just so you guys know, the office is coming together. I've still got storage and stuff to do, but now I've got desks. Just need to do a little bit of clearing up, and I should actually be pretty good to start filming again and be on camera, because it's kind of sucked to just doing audio only, to be honest with you. I don't mind doing it occasionally, but I don't know. I know it sounds really dumbass, but it doesn't, I don't know. I kind of feel like when I'm talking on camera, I kind of like imagine someone there, and it just, I don't know, it kind of feels like I'm having more of a conversation rather than just talking into a mic. It sounds so bloody weird, but whatever. Anyway, hopefully you have enjoyed the video. I'll see you soon. Take care of yourselves. Stay safe. Bye for now.